folks. Welcome back to the Mañana No Mas podcast. Today with me, I'm very pleased to bring Rob Ferre. He was so gracious. I met him through a LinkedIn connection. And as you know, I invite people that I meet on LinkedIn to have a conversation with me. We had a conversation that I thought was awesome. And I invited him to share himself with you because I think that he's just a tremendous individual and can bring a lot of value to what we've got going on here on this channel. Rob, take it away, man. Tell us a little something about yourself.
Well, I come from Salt Lake City, Utah. People don't know where that is. It's in Utah. And so, yeah, I'm out here. I do a variety of things. I'm a business owner, first and foremost. Been a business owner for 13 years. I have a company called Life at the Party. It started out as a DJ business, and over the years, I've pivoted and added my services. I am a speaker. I'm a game show host. I'm an MC. Anything that involves a crowd, an audience, I love. And right now, audiences, live audiences, like in-person audiences are rare to find. So right now, we're just looking to do opportunities virtually. So, but this is what I do. I love to be in front of audiences, and just that gives you like a little snippet of who I am.
So the first time that you hit my radar, right? I'm on the internet all day long. I mean, I'm working harder now through the COVID crisis than I was, before the crisis.
Yeah.
And you popped up on my feed as, this crazy DJ doing cul-de-sac parties. And I fell in love with the concept, and I'm like, I got to find out who this guy is. And then I found you on LinkedIn, friended you the whole bit there. Talk to me about like the evolution of that, and like how much has that boosted your popularity, getting that set of videos out?
Well, yeah, it was interesting. 2020 started out as a year I was really optimistic for. I had a lot of events on the horizon. I was supposed to go speak in the UK at a DJ conference in March. Yeah. I was supposed to go do a wedding in France in July. And all these things are being pushed to the side because of what is going on right now. And so in March, everything shut down. I did my last live event, and we were all kind of quarantined. And here in Utah, it's not as bad as it is in other states, but we were still following the rules here. And I just saw how all my speaker friends, my DJ friends, everybody who was in the entertainment speaking community, they were freaking out and like, what do we do? So most of my friends who are DJs, they had to perform, they had to DJ, and so they all went online. And it's interesting to watch because I've seen the evolution of these streams. What it all started out with is somebody just playing their music and streaming it from Facebook, and the audio was from their external speakers, and it was just very basic. And then I saw it just evolve, and DJs now, the streams are amazing. And it's interesting, we're now figuring out what gamers were doing years ago, but now all DJs are streaming on Twitch and finding these different ways to do these overlays and stuff like that. But online gamers were doing that. But I'm just kind of giving you that as a backdrop because I was seeing all my DJ friends doing that. And I was like, that's not really my thing. And I did do a couple of live streams, which was fun. But I really wanted to be in front of an audience. And so I approached my assistant, Melissa, and I said, you got a fun neighborhood. Let's do a beta test and go to your neighborhood and do this social distancing dance party. And I was trying to think of something that would be catchy, and I called it the Doorstep DJ. And she's like, great, we'll do it. I'll set it up. And I get to her neighborhood. People are ready to go. They even called the news. And so our first dance party was a huge success. And once I posted the news story, people were like, hey, I want that in my neighborhood. I want that in my neighborhood. I was like, done, let's do it. And so I've done around 20 or so of these events over the last, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, it's been. And it's been a lot of fun. And I've actually, once I started promoting it and getting it out onto the socials, a lot of my other DJ friends were like, wow, that looks cool too. And there are a couple other DJs who are already doing it themselves. So it wasn't a completely original idea. I wasn't the originator of this, but a lot of DJs had the same mentality to do this. But what made me different and what I wanted to do differently was create it as a free service. It is donation based, so I do take donations, but I just want to be able to connect with my community. And a lot of other DJs were approaching me like, how do you do this? How do you make money at it? And I was like, it's not about making money. It's about connecting with my community and offering a service. And Utah's now in, I think, yellow or orange. I forget which color it is, but things are getting back to somewhat normal. And so the demand isn't as high. But when we were in the thick of it, when people were sequestered and quarantined in their homes with their kids who were like itching to get out and have some sort of human connection, music and dance was the solution that I could bring to them. And so it was so much fun to be able to drive up into a neighborhood, you know, all the doors are shut. You know, there were some communities who were ready to go, but you know,
ready to go.
And then I start playing music in the streets, and then people start coming out of their homes, and they're like, most of the people knew. I told them to make sure that it was okay to ask for permission. But then it's really cool to watch as people start emerging from their homes and getting ready to connect with their neighbors. And what's really cool about this, I speak on musical empathy and how music can unite people in ways that there's no other way to connect. And people are dancing and singing synchronistically to the same music and connecting in a way that they never thought was possible. And that's what I brought to these communities. And so it's just so much fun to be able to bring that. And, you know, I wasn't doing gigs. All my gigs got canceled, my speaking gigs, my DJ gigs. And I had all of this time to figure out what I needed to do. And so that's what came out, the Doorstep DJ. And so I've done a couple of parties these last couple of weeks, and I'm going to do a couple more, but I'm actually going to get back to work here, do some weddings coming up here, rescheduled events, rescheduled speaking events, but I'm also doing a lot of virtual events too. So there's so many different ways to pivot, but this is my way of pivoting and connecting with my community.
There's so many layers to what you just described in that whole, you know, evolution of events, right? One thing that really jumped out to me was you saw a strength for yourself, right? So this is what I do. This is how I can add value and connect with my community. And that to me that talks a lot about character. I think that's huge. Like, you know, I'm in a weird space because, you know, I can do masterminds and leadership and all that stuff. And then it's like, well, how do you affect your community during a lockdown or a shutdown? You know, so like your friends, I ended up doing a lot of stuff virtually, right? But you took it right out to the street. I think that's a really cool deal, man. That's cool.
Yeah. And that's the thing is I wanted to be different. And I wanted to do something that was not just online because let's be honest. I think a lot of us who are currently in this situation, we're sick of staring at screens all day. I mean, I think it's amazing that we're able to connect online, and we're connecting in ways we didn't before. And it's really cool because I imagine just like you were all like, cool, we all are now captive audiences inside our homes. Let's connect. And there's been a lot of connection, but I think I think in-person human connection trumps this, right? I think we had a conversation, we went out to dinner, we'd have a much different level of connection. But I mean, we're finding ways to connect in different ways. And that was my way of doing it, was just being in person. I didn't want to be like, because I had a lot of friends who actually approached me. They would call me or they send me messages. You know what you should do? You should do these parties, or you should do some online stuff. And I'm like, I could, but why not do it in person? And so they were telling me to go online and do some Facebook stuff. And I am doing virtual dance parties for schools because it's easier to do it that way, where all the kids can log in from their homes and jump on Zoom and we do some virtual dance parties. But going to a community is just so much better. Like my favorite, I think the video that you saw was from this one community where she told everybody on the block, and everybody was ready. They had their lawn chairs out. They were
Yeah.
all outside hanging out. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
That is cool. When you get ready to do an event, are you always, I shouldn't say always because that's bad to say that, but like, are you generally an upbeat kind of guy, or do you got to psych yourself up for this kind of a thing? Or are you like, you're excited when you get there?
It's this is a great question, because I do feed off the energy of people. I feed off the energy of music. I feed off how people react, right?
Yeah.
So, it's funny that you asked that, because on Saturday I just did this. I did 2 parties that day. I put them back to back, right? And I did a block party, and after the block party was done, I was just feeling sluggish. And then I took a 5-hour energy, and then we go to this other house for a 17-year-old birthday party, but we do it on her driveway, right? She invites, about 20 of her friends, because you can have events up to 50 people, and so she invited around 20. And once people started reacting to the music and feeling the groove and kind of bobbing their head and smiling and dancing to it, that feeds me. And it's kind of funny, because when you're a DJ, you have this ego, because you're like, I get to select the music and I can manipulate them to react in a certain way. It's a really cool job. And, I'm not like those guys who do those huge festivals, but even on a smaller scale with like 20 high schoolers, just dancing and I don't think they had done that in months, right? And now they're like celebrating and dancing together. And so that's what really brings me up. There are days where it's hard. There are days where I'm having to pack gear and set things up, and it gets really tiring. That's why I really like speaking. If I can just show up with a microphone and my PowerPoint, or I'm here, right? It's so much easier. But there's reward in both, and I love it.
Well, you mentioned a term earlier, and now I'm wondering if it's actually a real term, or did you make it up? Musical empathy. Is that a real term, or did you make that up?
I made it up. I think I own the website. But yeah, I imagine I'm not the only person who's ever used that term ever.
No, but it made me think, like, if I hear Summertime by Will Smith, because I'm old, I immediately go, aha. And it takes me to a moment.
Right.
It takes me to a thing. And with my motorcycling background, there's usually, like Rob Zombie was a thing when I used to road race. I'd hear that in my helmet all the time. It's certain things elicit certain feelings, emotions, experiences.
My favorite motorcycle song is Slow Ride. Take it easy. But it's funny that you bring that up with music. Music can take us to a time, to a place, and it's so cool, because there are certain songs that will connect people, right? You might like Rob Zombie. I'm not a big Rob Zombie fan, but if we find a mutual connection that we can both groove to, it's really cool. And that's what I love, the diversity of being able to DJ. I can go to an event and be like, okay, Kurt seems more like maybe a hard rock. I don't know about heavy metal, but a little bit more hard rock. And what's going to get Kurt to kind of groove out, and your groove looks like somebody else's is different than somebody else's. But there's so many different ways for us to kind of see how music can affect us. And when I do these social distancing dance parties, these block parties, I try and just get fun music that everybody can connect to. But the fun thing about it also is seeing people just letting loose and letting go of their inhibitions and just enjoying themselves. Like, would you have ever imagined, 30, 40 people on a block on their lawns, on their doorsteps doing Baby Shark? Like, it's the silliest, stupidest song, but they're seeing their grandkids or their little children getting excited about it. And that's what music can do for us. It creates that empathy. I am now connecting with this other person through this, through me doing the Baby Shark dance. And but that's the power of music. Unfortunately, I'm not a musician, but I am somebody who can play music and find the right tone, the right music to strike a chord with people.
Yeah, I'm musical, but I'm no musician. When I was a corporate employee, my people that worked with me would always get frustrated because I would sing all day long. Like every time someone would say something, it would trigger a song, and I'd just sit there and sing. And I had a coworker that hated it, and he would be like, "If you would please just shut up, just please shut up." And so every day when I would I would change my shoes to ride my motorcycle home, I would sing the Mr. Rogers theme song, and it would drive him insane. And so I took a trip to Japan for the company, literally called his voicemail and sang him the Mr. Rogers theme song from Japan, just because I thought it would be a fun thing to do. But those are the types of things that, I'd always done.
So are you a karaoke guy?
I didn't think I was until I got up, and so weird because now you think I'm a Rob Zombie Metallica guy, but like I love smooth jazz. So, but no, I do Enter Sandman, and if I do Enter Sandman, I don't have to buy any more drinks for the rest of the night. They all just show up for free after that.
So that is your go-to karaoke song. That is awesome.
Well, yeah, well that one if I'm thirsty.
But yeah, let's say you're just doing it for you, like something you want to enjoy. Because that's the thing about music. And sometimes we have music that will connect us with other people, and then we have music that's just for us to connect with ourselves. And so that's what music can do. And I went to China last year, and it's interesting. They were doing karaoke, and it's so interesting. I'm in this foreign country, but I'm understanding what is going on through this karaoke medium. Like I get the music that they like. And it's always fun to kind of see what songs resonate with certain people.
Yeah. So what did you sing? Did you sing Rick Astley?
What did I sing? Did I sing? Oh.
I had a Rick roll for sure.
I have the video because what inspired me is when we walked into this restaurant / karaoke bar, there was this little kid singing, and I can't remember the song he sang, but then he sang Gangnam Style, and it was like the best thing I have ever seen in my entire life. But what did I sing? But my wife took a video of it. Let me see here. But I got up and I sang a song, and it was a lot of fun. And wait, I think this is the kid singing. But anyway, usually when I go to karaoke bars, I have a couple of ones. I do Backstreet Boys.
There you go.
That way, just for fun. I think a lot of people get connected to that. That's just a lot of fun. So that's my go-to jam. I also like to sing Feel the Rhythm, but it's not called Feel the Rhythm. It's an Enrique Iglesias song. But sometimes I just have to ham it up. And I also do play that funky music, White Boy, if the party is like really like just like lame, and people, because we're getting off on a tangent here, but it is my pet peeve when I go to a karaoke bar and it's ballad after ballad after ballad, and it's just
fired up.
And I'm like, we got to change the tone. We got to have some fun. And I'm going to go out there and embarrass myself and play that funky music. So anyway,
there you go.
Karaoke talent, tangent.
Well, let's take a segue then. Let's actually make a real tangent, a real separation. Talk to me about what public speaking looks like to you. Like what's your core themes? Who's your core audience? What do you really thrive at when you're delivering a message?
Yeah, it's interesting. I tell people I got into public speaking. My first public speaking job, if it really does count, is when I worked at Walt Disney World at MGM Studios on the back of a tram. I was the guy when you get on the tram, and I'd be like, "You have boarded the tram. You have parked your car at Goofy 55. Goofy 55. Please lower your head and watch your step. If you don't lower your head, please watch your language. This is a family theme park." So that was like my first speaking gig. And then I worked at the Jungle Cruise. Yeah, I got to spiel on that all day long. But getting into more the public speaking realm, I first started doing assemblies for schools. And I was like, wow, this is fun. And then I started speaking at DJ conferences. And that's a thrill. Speaking, being in quasi influencer, quasi educator, somebody that's an expert. And so I was able to do that. And I started speaking at these DJ conferences, and that's where I really caught the bug. And then it started transitioning to other things, emceeing for galas and events, doing game shows. And so all this stuff, I believe, is in the speaking world. A lot of people think, oh, you're a speaker, so you're like a motivational speaker.
Yeah.
And somebody said this to me. It's like, we think about motivational speakers, and it's just like this one thing, and I at times I'm like, no, it's not that. I'm not necessarily a motivational speaker. I'm not like Tony Robbins. I'm not like a Les Brown or somebody like that. But somebody made the point, is like, well, whenever you speak on the stage, you want them to react. You want them to have action. And I was like, oh, that's true. Because I'm not just speaking for fun, right? And so every time I inspire somebody, I want them to act. I want them to react. And so that's what we're doing. And so I speak on leadership. I speak on how to create a cultural movement. I speak on how people can create change in their life. So I do a whole variety of things. And so my major keynote is be the first one on the dance floor. And that's a lot of fun. And it's getting people to find ways to create change within their circle of influence. And so what is your circle of influence? How are you creating change within your, world, right?
Yeah.
So I find different examples of how people have stepped out onto the dance floor and were the first ones to create influence within their culture or within wherever they have influence.
So another unnecessary segue. When I was a young person, I used to run a tuxedo shop, and I ran into a lot of lead bartenders that obviously needed uniforms, and I would run into them and then end up on their guest lists. And there was a club in Philadelphia where I'd grown up where a friend and me would go, and we were always the first on the dance floor. And they always invited us back because they said they sold a lot more drinks because people started dancing, an hour earlier than usual. And that was our thing. You said be the first on the dance floor. I'm like, I actually had a job where I was the first on the dance floor for a long time.
Yeah, you were the ringer. You were the one that was out there. But when I talk about being first one on the dance floor, I talk about you don't have to be that first one out there. And those people are called the innovators. They're the ones that are creating the ideas and implementing the ideas. But there's also your first and your second followers, who are probably maybe the most important people to get this movement started. How do we create a movement? By having 2 or 3 followers who are going to help spread that idea and get more people involved with it. So I think that's really important too. So validating the one person who is trying to get this idea out into the world.
Nice. So I want to do my best at valuing your time. There's one more subject that came up that I wanted to bridge with you, and that was you started talking about, the fish and chips in the UK, and you started talking about, France. I very thankfully, I'm so grateful because I always wanted to travel as a young person, but my economic situation told me that I would never be that guy. Right. And then corporately, I ended up getting to go. I went to Italy like 15 times. I went to France. I went to Spain, Germany, Canada, Japan. They wanted me to go to Mexico. I didn't go to Mexico. But there were all these things that I got to do. And then to hear you say, oh, I had an event in the UK. I had an event in France, and then you mentioned China. How has your work life, how's that enabled you to travel, and what effect has that had on you?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that because I've never had a proper corporate job like you, desk, sitting down. Like I've always worked in entertainment, and it's hard for me because I've been learning along the way how to do it all on my own. I worked for Disney, I worked at Universal, I worked at the Nickelodeon Hotel, and I did these things. But when I came back to Utah, I was like, I don't know if I could have a traditional job. It's just too hard for me. It's not too hard. I don't think I have the patience for it. And so once I got my first like speaking gig on the road, I was like, I love this. And so I've kind of transitioned in the sense that I want to take my message, but I also want to travel. And but I want to travel to those destinations, and I want speaking to take me around the world. So I've already had three international speaking events. I was supposed to have my fourth and fifth this year. It's not going to, well, UK is probably still going to happen, but I went to Armenia and spoke on gamification to HR professionals out there. Like, it was like the most random gig, but I loved it.
Yeah.
And then I got to go to Italy, and then I got to go to Dubai. And I love these opportunities to be getting paid to travel. And so I think, you have that amazing opportunity with your corporate career, which is a huge blessing. Some people like, travel after a while, it gets really like, tiring. And I get it.
Yeah.
It's constantly on the road, but it's a great way to see the world. And so that's been one of my major goals, is to get paid to speak around the world.
It was about my third trip to Italy, and I started speaking Italian and getting used to their culture. And then I started saying, you know what, if work's going to send me Monday through Friday, I'm not going to fly home until Sunday, right? And I would take that extra day and buy a train ticket and go to another city I always made sure that I got something like a personal thing. Like, I always made sure there was a thing to take back. And I ended up making friends. I've got, friends in Italy, Bologna, Milan, and it's a moment that it just lives on. It just keeps going. You know what I mean? It's such a cool deal.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and being able to have those relationships with people from around the world and carrying that on, I think it's such a cool opportunity to experience other cultures.
Yeah, yeah.
And then,
my first trip over there at the airport in France, that's when I realized why people don't like Americans too much when we travel. Because I watch people just act crazy. Like, I just want a bottled water and push themselves to the front of the line and all that. And I'm like, they don't understand what a queue is. they don't understand that not everybody wants to speak English. It was such a unique experience to see firsthand. And then to watch the news here in America, but then go to the country where the news was about and see that it's not that way, right? It was really enlightening. I enjoyed the travel.
Yeah, and I enjoy it too. I love it. I went to Shanghai Disneyland in China. It was amazing. Like, it was one of my favorite places I've ever visited. But seeing how a Chinese theme park and how it's still Disney, but seeing how it is run out there, the culture, how people interact in lines, it's very different. They're not Americans. And it was quite refreshing. To interact with the people in China.
That is cool. Rob, I tell you, man, I love the time that we've been able to share together. Before we close this thing out, is there anything that you want to share with people? Or is there any message that you just gotta say or do, or anything I missed?
Not really. I think if there's anything people need to maybe take away from this, it might be hard for you to get across your idea. Maybe you want to create change within your own circle of influence, and creating change can be hard. And it's also can be it takes a lot of courage. And sometimes people don't take that step. People don't take the courage to step out onto that dance floor, whatever it may be. So whatever your may be, the metaphor for the work that you want to do or the idea you want to get out, be that person who can take the courage to do it, but also be that person who's going to validate others who are trying to create change in the world. And it does take a community, it does take momentum, and you can be a part of that. And so that's all I want to encourage people to do, is try and find ways to connect with others within your community, and just start in your own backyard. And that's what I decided to do with the social distancing dance parties, and it is a bit of a challenge at times, but it is something that is me stepping out onto the dance floor and trying to do something different and bringing joy and groove to communities around.
Yeah. Now, Rob, that last 90 seconds is exactly why I knew that you would be the right person to have on this podcast. You know, a lot of people in my audience are entrepreneurs or struggling people trying to become an entrepreneur, right? Like leaders that aren't quite leaders yet. Like they know they have it, but they haven't expressed it yet.
Yeah.
And you just popped that out, man. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
When I saw the video, and then when I connected with you on LinkedIn, and then we had the conversation, each step along the way, there was an identification that I made with you, thinking, well, this is a dude, this is a person of value. This is someone I want to experience something with. So thank you so much for joining the show. And man, I wish you the best. In the description for the video, in the notes to the video, in the notes to the podcast, there will be links to Rob's website, to his Instagram. Is it YouTube?
I'll put the YouTube in there too, so that they can.
Good. And, you know, folks, I encourage you to reach out to Rob. And, you know, if you've got a use for Rob, I highly encourage you to seek him out, find him, and become part of his circle and his network. Folks, that wraps up another episode of the Mañana No Mas podcast. And thank you so much for participating, listening, and sharing. Remember to share the podcast with your friends, because we're trying to add value to as many people as we possibly can. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.